Wholeness, beautiful beings. Welcome to Seeds of Silver Tree. So it is getting warmer out. That's always exciting, isn't it? I can't believe it's almost May. Like 2024 is going by so fast. But I wanted to share this with you because, and this will be a little bit personal, just a little bit, not too much, not too deep, but I wanted to say this before I go and run an errand. So, I don't know how and who will connect with this or not, but I have, for a long time, all my life since I've been in this body, I have struggled to have like this visceral, deep, intuitive connection with my human form. When I was a child, I always felt otherworldly, like outside of my body. And there are terms that people, scientists and researchers and therapists use. The medical field, I think it's called, disassociation or something, when your body goes through, or your mind goes through a deep, sudden, intense, traumatic experiences. You do this thing where you'll split. Your psyche literally splits or fragments itself to protect itself from literally, like, completely disengaging from reality. All right. And I've had personal experiences in my life where I believe strongly that's happened to me. So a huge portion of my childhood before the age of 12, I've always felt just this weird out of body, like I was in my body, but outside of my body all at the same time. And it was just a very odd feeling. And I now, at a much, as an adult woman, I'm just now beginning to, I think what really helped me bring myself back to myself, it was around the age of 26, 27, I became an Ashtangi. I practiced a form of yoga for about under a year and a half, with yogis that I used to live with. And I was very committed to this practice, 6 days a week for about less than 2 hours, an hour and a half practice to do the whole first primary series, because there's 6 levels to it. And my goodness gracious, it changed my life. It changed how I perceive my physical pain. And this is why it's like, this is a little personal, because I can't speak for everyone else and how everyone else out there, their relationship to their physical pain. I do believe that the body keeps the score. I really want to read that book. I just love the title of that, because it really brings it home, doesn't it? The body keeps the score. The body keeps the score of every little thing we go through spiritually, that we go through mentally, emotionally, psychically, intuitively, medically even. With our surgeries and our traumas and things like that. Every time you go into surgery, that's a form of trauma to the body in order to preserve your life. They do this thing called surgery, and they do this medical procedure to increase the longevity of your life or to decrease suffering in your life, right? And but anyway, as a child, I really struggled with this, and I'm not going to go into detail, but there was an incident in my life where I was severely injured as under a year old. I was an infant. Not an infant. I was under a year old. So the skull, and it was a TBI, traumatic brain injury, and the skull isn't fully developed, all right? Especially under a year old. If your cranium is still fusing together, right? And even to this day, as a grown adult, with human skulls, you'll see the I forgot the medical term because I took science courses when I was wanting to become a nurse, but like you'll see these lines where the skull fuses together. Where when you're under a year old, you're very rubbery. Your bones are rubbery, and that's actually to protect you. To be honest, the first, I think under a year, like, children, their bones are very flexible. So anyway, I went through that event where, the incident, because it was not an accident, and the incident took place, and I, had to live with it, and it caused permanent damage, in my left eye. So I'm visually, visually impaired, but I'm able to drive. I'm able to see. Blessed. I'm blessed all the time for that. I'm very, very blessed. I can say that with all my being. And then other events in my life that fragmented, like your psyche, right? And sometimes they're if you're a child, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you don't have memory of it. Your memory can be very fragmented, where you're questioning, did that really happen to me, or did this happen, did that happen? But it did happen, right? But as an adult, it's a lot harder to go about your daily life if you can recall every second and every breath of an event that's happened to you, right? But sometimes we disassociate, and we are so caught off. The event that takes place on our body is so traumatic that in order to keep ourselves to keep some form of reality together, we break off, right? And I think it's disassociation is a medical term, but I think it's deeply, deeply spiritual. A lot of adults, a lot of human beings are fragmented. We become fragmented because sometimes these events are just too difficult to bear, too difficult to face. We numb it through indulging in too much sex, too much alcohol, too much drugs, overeating. We compensate, in order to avoid having to process and truly integrate the event. And there's some people, and I am not, believe me, I have met and I've seen people who've gone through way worse than I have. Okay. And they function really well in life, or they really struggle. It's very almost black or white. I've never seen someone kind of in the middle. It's like it's a choice you have to make when it comes to certain traumatic events happening to you, to your physical form. Right? Whether that's sexual abuse, whether that is, a severe energy that leaves you maimed, permanently. I can go on and on and on, or psychological damage, but, I will say there are certain things that, like when you can't, when these events happen to you and you become fragmented, your psyche becomes fragmented. Disassociation is a way that your mind protects itself, right? And no, it's not bipolar, okay? So many people still have a misconception of what bipolar is. Not like split personality or anything like that. That bipolar isn't even about having a split personality. It may seem like it at times if you've ever engaged with somebody who's suffering from bipolar disease, or disorder, which I have worked in the mental health as well, and I know what that is for sure. But no, disassociation is just like you become numb, right? And by the grace of the Almighty Source, at the age of 26, I had a huge spiritual awakening, and that helped piece together myself again. And so through the practice, and I used to run. I started running. I always admired people of that that had a strong athletic background. And growing up, I was always told not to be careful. Rashida, be careful. Don't protect your head, protect your head. Like, my mom was always very overprotective because of my head injury that I received as a kid. So sports wasn't, my mom didn't say, yeah, go ahead and do that. She was very like, no. So I always avoided sports, but one sport I really liked was running, and I didn't start doing that until I was 19 or 20 years old. And I did that until well into my late 30s. But 26 is when I started doing Ashtanga, and it changed my life and how I connect with the language of pain in the body. Pain to me is energy, stagnant energy, and energy leaving the body. And both of those things can be very unstable, right? You don't want energy seeping out, but that's what happens. You lose a lot of energy when you're in an intense amount of pain and that pain isn't managed, right? Or you're in a lot of pain or suffering when that energy becomes stagnant and it's just sitting there and it's not going anywhere. Like, think of like a muscle clamped together in your back, your knots, right? Or a muscle tear or knots on your back, and it's just, there's no relief. That's stagnant energy, all that stress, emotional, mental, psychic stress just mounting on your back, right? And so I look at pain very differently due to my experience with Ashtanga, because Ashtanga, you feel 3 months into the practice, you feel like you want to crawl out of your body. You feel it deals with a lot of deep muscle, deep tissue. It adjusts your skeletal form. I mean, the benefits are out of this world. It's not just, yes, it's very repetitious, but it changed me. And I always loved running, but again, the knees, if you're not wearing the proper shoes, if you don't have the proper form, and if you're built different, or you're like, I'm super tall and lean and tiny, and I don't have a lot of body fat, and I think I was wearing the wrong shoes, and so I injured my left knee, or tore something. I know I did, because it pops now. It makes that weird noise. And so now, as I'm getting closer to the age of 40, I want to be, it's not that I want to be, like, look a certain way. It's, I want to be the healthiest that I can possibly be, right? Like what I say about my vision. I want the healthiest eyes, the healthiest heart that I can have at the moment, in this moment in my life right now, right? Because you could be 70, you're not going to be 20, but it's best to be the healthiest version that a 70-year-old could be and could have. And there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce this series of body talk, because I've always just had a struggle with connecting with the body, and in my body, even my womb. And so, through doing things like physical activities, like weights, weightlifting, I want to start doing. I want to get really heavy into cycling, but also pick up on my Ashtanga practice again, because it's not about just looks and aesthetic for me when it comes to being physically fit. It's about the mind. It does something to my mind. When I would go running, my mind became like, it was so medicinal for me running. Like, it cleared my mind. I felt very grounded in my body. When I'm not doing, listen, if I don't do physical activity, I become, number one, I'm starting to feel age in my body. Number two, I feel like a lot of, well, I shouldn't say age, stagnant energy. Because there are people who are my age, or like at 50, and they have a body that could be 30, because they just they take care of it, right? You take care of your body like you take care of your car. And so I just, where was I going to go with that? But yeah, so with, getting in tune with myself and with my body, I think it's one of those challenges, but it's so important for me. Otherwise I become an ungrounded mess, too emotional, too sensitive, cranky because I'm in pain, and being an empath as well. Like, you have to find your outlet to alchemize the energies that you take on, because people just projectile vomit their energy onto you. It is what it is. It's a blessing, but at times it can feel like a curse, because it's like, you want to be supportive of people. People don't know that they're doing it and that they're projecting, but they just bleh, bleh, I'm stressed out, bleh, you're just like, oh, okay, let me be supportive. And so you have all this excess energy onto you. And I work with sick people. I work with people that have serious, life-threatening medical issues, or not so serious from time to time, but most of them, either they're knocking on death's door or they're really in trouble. And so it's like when I'm going into their rooms, I'm talking to them, I'm wiping them, I'm changing them, I'm cleaning them, I'm talking to their families. That's a lot of energy. And so I have to, and the same when I worked with kids. With kids, it was more mental and emotional, less physical, right? But those 2 years of teaching did a number on me emotionally and mentally. And I should have really been had a very stringent, very clear cut practice with making sure I was clearing that energy off, because kids are highly, highly emotional. That's just how they are. And they're learning how to self-regulate those emotions so that they can think clearly, right? And to get their point across and communicate clearly. That's the goal, for childhood development, or emotional development anyway. So anyway, that's just, I wanted to, have this introduction and then this talk. I know I'm not going to post before or after pictures. I'm not going to show you pics of my abs or my butt, or, wear tight clothing or whatever. I don't think that's the point of Seeds of Silver Tree. I am not that vain, okay? Like, I'm really not. I try to care, okay? That's where I'm at. Like, give me a nice little cute dress to wear and some nice shoes. I like nice things. Don't get me wrong. But I feel this huge pull this season, this spring season, to really get in tune with my body. And that will also help me to strengthen discernment, as well as a spiritualist and as an empath, as a person who's very sensitive to energies and whatnot, things that we cannot see, but we can certainly feel. That's for sure. So let me know what you guys think. I'm about what share about your experiences with disassociation and and your body, and that journey. I'm just curious, because I know I'm not the only one, and you don't have to go into grave detail of what happened to you per se, but just like your journey with reconnecting with your body after traumatic experiences, because I definitely popped out of this one. I definitely popped out of my body several times due to some very visceral experiences. So thank you so much for tuning in. May this message find you well and whole. And remember to expand your consciousness, evolve your human being, and embrace supreme loving guidance. Thank you. See you next time.